Well, hello, my 1L class. We're going to start with adding and subtracting integers. Today's learning goal is I can successfully add and subtract with integers. But all we're going to do today, or all we're going to do in this first lesson, is figure out what to do about double signs. Because when you're adding and subtracting, all you're really doing is moving on the number line. And as it says right here, and I'll highlight it as we go along, there are only two ways to move on the number line. Adding goes to the right, this way. This is a positive direction. And subtracting goes to the left, a negative direction. You might hear me use the words forwards or up when we're talking about positive, or backwards and down when we're talking about negative as well. But one way or the other, if we're representing adding, we go to the right, and if we're representing subtracting, we go to the left. So if we just take a look here, we're going to see how we represent these things on the number line. So I've got some just straight up adding numbers. I've got -3 plus 4. Now -3, this is our start. So we take and put a dot at -3, and then we have a plus in the middle, that's adding, so we have to go this way on the number line, and this tells us how many spaces. So 4 spaces. We get all of that just from that one little statement. So we're going to go 4 spaces. I'm going to do it in jumps. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that brings us to 1. So that means that -3 plus 4 must be +1. Now we're going to do the same thing on this one. This is our starting point. So we're going to start at -1. And then the -3 means we go backwards 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. Backwards 3 spaces, and that must mean that -1 minus 3 is -4. Now we have 2 minus 6. That means that this, again, our 2 is our starting point, so we're going to put a big dot on number 2, and the minus means backwards, or to the left, or down, however you want to look at it. We're going to go down, backwards, left, 6 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that gets us right here to -4. Okay, so now you've seen we just go left or right on the number line. But there's a problem because sometimes they throw in some double signs on us. If we take a look at what's coming down here, sometimes they put in 2 signs. So double signs are when we have a plus or a minus that are side by side without a number in between them. They can have a bracket in between them like they do here, but not a number. So if we take a look here, we have a plus plus. Now you can only go forwards and backwards on the number line, so having a double sign in there is just kind of useless. So let's think about it. If we add positives, what is that net effect? Is that a positive thing to do or a negative thing to do? If I said to you, I was going to add some positive things into your life, would that make you happy or sad? I hope that adding positive things would make you happy. So that means that it's actually a positive thing. And positive things are pluses. They're great. They're adding. So instead of those 2 positive signs, I'm going to write it again. This -2 doesn't change. Our starting point doesn't change. But those 2 pluses in the middle, they're happy. They're adding positives is a happy thing. So we're just going to change it to 1 positive. And then that 3 we write in there. So now how about subtracting negatives? So we have subtracting negatives. Let's think about that. Is that a happy thing or a sad thing? If I said to you, I'm going to take negative things out of your life, would that make you happy or sad? Well, I hope removing the negative things would make you happy. And again, that's a positive thing. So if it's a positive thing, then it's a plus. So why would we use 2 negatives when we can use 1 positive? It makes it look much happier. So that's going to be -2 plus 3. And notice that those are actually, these 2 questions get us to the same spot. -2 plus 3, -2 plus 3. It's exactly the same question. Now let's have a look at the next 2. Now we're adding negatives. So if we take a look at that, we add negatives. Let's think of this, is this a happy thing or a sad thing? If I said I'm going to add some negative things into your life, would that make you happy or sad? Well, I tell you, it would make me kind of sad if you're going to put some negative influences into my life. So that's overall a negative thing. Putting negative influences into my life is not a good thing. So instead of writing those two different signs, I'm going to leave that starting place where it is, and instead of plus negative, I'm just going to use one negative, which means that we're going to be going backwards on the number line. And then subtracting negatives, well, let's think about that. If I that should say subtracting positives. That is a boo-boo. So let's just stroke that out. Subtracting positives. We already did subtracting negatives up above. So subtracting positives. Is subtracting positives a good thing or a bad thing? If I said I'm going to take away some positive things, would that make you happy or sad? Well, I can tell you that would make me sad. So subtracting positives is a negative thing. It's not good. And a negative thing means that we're going to go backwards on the number line. So we're just going to write this as -2 minus 3. And look at the way that did. When I had these different signs, I got negatives. When I had signs that were the same as each other, I got positives. And so when you see double signs like this, the first thing that I want you to do is just write it again, except get rid of those two double signs and replace them with either the happy sign or the sad sign, depending on how that makes you feel. Adding positives, happy, change them to a positive sign. Subtracting negatives, happy, change them to a positive sign. Adding negatives, sad, change them to a negative sign. And subtracting positives, that's sad too, change them to a negative sign. Now you have a handout to complete before you watch the next video.